Here is the latest Higher Summits forecast brought to you by our friends at the Mount Washington Observatory.
Weather above treeline in the White Mountains is often wildly different than at our trailheads. Before you hike, check the Higher Summits forecast at mountwashington.org. Weather observers working at the nonprofit Mount Washington Observatory write this elevation-based forecast every morning and afternoon. Search and rescue teams, avalanche experts, and backcountry guides all rely on the Higher Summits forecast to anticipate weather conditions above treeline. You should too. Go to mountwashington.org or text forecast to 603-356-2137.
This is Mr. Stomp here. I'm currently on top of Mount Washington, and it is cold as... And I'm here with Mrs. Stomp, who just got back from Florida, so she's even colder.
I'm freezing.
Yeah, we got some serious wind and weather up here, and it's wild, man. I wish I had my EV car to get down from the summit quick. So we got a forecast for you before my lips freeze. This is the forecast for the weekend of September 20th.
Friday, we're mostly in the clouds. We're trending towards in the clear under decreasing cloudy skies.
Do you need a hand warmer?
I need it all, baby.
It's going to be a high in the upper 30s. Winds northwest at 30 to 45 miles per hour with gusts up to 60 miles per hour. And the wind chill is going to be 20 to 30 above.
Oh, no.
Friday night in the clear under mostly cloudy skies. Low in the upper 20s, which is even worse than right now. Winds are going to be northwest at 30 to 45 miles per hour with gusts up to 55 miles per hour. And the wind chill?
Oh, no. Rising to 10 to 20 above.
You read the wrong one. That was for Saturday, but that's okay.
The whole weekend is cold.
I think we get the point. Winter's coming. Oh, my God. Be safe out there. Bring your 2 headlamps. And make sure you listen to the pod to keep your ears warm. Later.
Have a better one.
Broadcasting from the Woodpecker Studio in the great Live Free or Die state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast, where we discuss all things related to hiking and search and rescue in the White Mountains of New Hampshire and beyond. Here are your hosts, Mike and Nick.
All right, Stosh, so welcome back. So you're co-host tonight. Are you ready for this?
Hold on.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you're cracking it open.
That's what I got. That's the co-host tonight.
Nice. Good thinking. I'm just drinking water tonight, so I'm slacking a little bit.
I can't believe you would do that. Co-host. Where's Nick? I was thinking this would be a PUDS podcast, and I was honored to be on that.
No. He's so he is. I think that they're getting. They got a baby on the way, so they've got a family trip. I think that they're going up into the mountains and chilling out. So maybe they'll do a couple of short hikes with the with the little one, and hopefully Nick will get out to do a big one. But yeah, they got time off, so you're stepping in, and I wanted to get you on. We'll talk about why this works out well with our theme for. We want to talk about the Catskills tonight, so we figured you're the guy, right?
I think so. I mean, there's other cool. No, it's basically just me.
Right. So we Dave Shits in the Woods isn't available, so we got you.
So there you go, Mike. He's already taking the punches, already doing that.
No, I'm kidding. I did have a question for you. I was thinking about this because I was talking with one of my daughters about electric cars, and they were talking. One of their friends is selling a Tesla, and they were like, "Oh, I wonder if that would be a cool car to buy." And I was like, "Oh, I don't know about what the deal is with used electric vehicles." And I was thinking you might be a good guy. I'm always interested in this. Like, at what point does a Tesla get like too old where you have to replace the battery? And does it get to the point where it's so expensive to replace the battery that it's not worth it and you got to buy a new one? Or how do you manage it once your Tesla gets to be like 5, 6, 7 years old?
Well, I've been at it with this electric car for about 5 years now.
Okay.
So I think I'm up to 90,000 miles on it. And it has, lost a little bit of its range, of course. I mean, it's been proven and such, as you charge excessively, stuff like that, you'll lose your range. But I don't feel with wherever I've been with the fast chargers, with, home charging, stuff like that, to that I've ever been in the middle of nowhere where I'm like, I'm going to run out and I'm going to die. But you chatted about, when you have to replace the battery. I mean, I would say like they say 300,000 miles is when, really? And at that time, right now, a battery costs pretty expensive, $8,000, but that's the only thing you got to do is just put it in, take out the other one, and then the other one gets refurbished. So it's a simple process that I've seen secondhand people do, not just Tesla. And I love this car.
You do.
It's so much fun. The other day, man, just punching it going onto the highway and getting up to 100 miles an hour in a matter of like 5 seconds. Really thrilling.
I bet. Yeah.
And then you got to follow the law after that, though.
Right. Yeah. Don't be one of those people that like drives and into. No, did you take it to New Hampshire when you went up this summer?
Oh, I did. I actually, before this, I had a shorter range Tesla that I took up to New Hampshire, and I had doubts, but no, they have a fast charger in Lincoln right at the Loon Resort. Right.
So,
and it was fantastic. I didn't feel like I was going to run out of range. I charged here in White Junction, Vermont, and then Rutland. But with the new car, the somewhat new, I upgraded, but a used. And I only had to charge once in White Junction, and then up here in Lincoln, I charged for about 20 minutes and then went to my next stop.
Awesome. Well, I guess we'll have to get, maybe Stomp will listen to this if he does the edit, and we can convince him to get one.
So. I mean, the funny thing is, I remember the last time we were together on this, and he was just like, how are they going to go over bridges? These bridges at capacity. I'm like, well, like, your average truck might have a load on it of so much tons and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's just like any other truck or any car. Right. It's just the Cybertruck is the most ugliest thing ever created in the history of mankind. Yeah,
I don't know. I like them. I think they're cool. I've seen a few of them. There's one guy that lives in my town that has one, and he always drives by, and I'm like, it's unique. So you get used to it a little bit. Anytime there's a new form factor on a vehicle, like it takes a little bit of getting used to, but you do eventually. Yeah. Get used to it. So,
but have you ever ridden one, man?
No, I haven't.
They say you've not liked Tesla, you've not liked an electric car until you've ridden in one, because it's a different feel world. Yeah,
what I need to do is when I rent, I go down to Florida and rent cars quite often. I have to get one when I rent. I like doing that, renting a car to see if I like it. So
yeah. Fantastic.
All right, so I'm going to do the intro. So you're going to do the part where I say I'm Mike, and you're going to say I'm Stosh, and let's get started.
That was my one question that I probably was going to ask. So.
All right, don't screw this up. So you just all right. So welcome to episode 209 of the Sounds Like a Search and Rescue podcast. This week we're joined by Stosh from the Inside the Line podcast. So Stosh is the guy for all things hiking and search and rescue related in the Catskills. So he's been basically you've been doing the podcast at like the same amount of time that me and Stomp and Nick have been doing podcasts, right?
Yeah, a year after you guys started.
Right. So, so he's been probably over 200 episodes at this point, all about the, various topics and focused on the Catskills, but other stuff too, right?
Yep. We're all over the place.
Right. So, So he's going to he was recently up in the Pemi wilderness, so he's going to update us on that. And then we're going to talk a little bit about some hikers that got in trouble. We always love to hear about people that get in trouble taking drugs out on the trail. So this happened in the Catskills, so we figured that Stosh was the guy to help us out with that. Plus, we've got a couple of bad parenting, hiking / wilderness related stories that we're going to cover. I did keep that story in, Stosh, but I'll explain in a little while. Plus, we've got a trip report of a traverse that I did across the Baldpate Mountains in Maine. So we'll cover this section of the Appalachian Trail for those interested in exploring it. Plus, I did a recent hike on the Baldface mountain range in Evans Notch. So I'll give an update on that. Plus, I did a bunch of trail maintenance stuff, so we can talk about that too. I think you adopt trail too, right?
Yeah, I just did it too.
Awesome. All right. So we'll talk about that. And then, so that's up in Evans Notch. And we'll have some other stuff. So all this and more. So I'm Mike.
I'm Stosh.
Let's get started.
Get started.
Okay. Excellent.
Let's get started.
Do we both do it at the same time? God, I'm so off.
Well, typically we'll do, I'll say it, Nick will say it, but we have like the little foot sound bite.
That's what I thought.
So you'll hear it. So, but anyway, right now we're going to drop into our friend Christina from Wild Raven Endurance Coaching. She's going to have a moment to just tell you about her services. If you want to get in shape, you can hit her up. So.
I'm Christina from Wild Raven Endurance Coaching. I work with athletes of all levels, from hikers to triathletes, helping you reach your goals with personalized guidance. With years of experience hiking, mountain biking, and trail running across New England, I also have a deep knowledge of the New Hampshire 4,000 footers and the surrounding trails. Whether you're a beginner hiker or a seasoned athlete, I'll guide you toward your goals, reducing injury risk and improving your performance through smart, tailored coaching. Are you looking to transition from hiking to mountain running? I'm here to make that journey easier too. My approach combines strength training, mindfulness, and life balance on and off the trail. Let me help you find more joy in your sport while getting stronger and healthier along the way. Visit www.coaching.christinafolsick.com and start your adventure today.
All right, Stosh. So, if you want to get in shape, you can reach out to Christina too, and she'll put you on a plan.
Awesome. Let's hope she comes down here to the Catskills. It's only about 5.5, 6 hours away.
Right. She's in the Southwest now, so she does it remote. So anywhere in the world, she can hook you up.
Oh, well, that is fantastic.
Awesome. So one thing Stomp pulled this for us. I wanted to just give the listeners a heads up. We're going to do a couple of New Hampshire things here. So wilderness first aid class. So there is a class being held on November 1st and November 2nd, which I'm actually looking at this one. Honestly, from a timing perspective, this may work out for me. So it's on a Saturday and a Sunday. So the Waterville Valley Athletic and Improvement Association is offering an advanced wilderness first aid course taught by Solo School. So this is a 16-hour, 2-day training, and it's open to only those with a current wilderness first aid certificate. So actually, I wouldn't be able to do this one because it's advanced. So I got to do the regular one first. But if you are a wilderness first aid certified, then you could do this advanced training. So you have to be 14 or older. It's rain or shine. The cost is $240 per person. And then if you have a membership in the Waterville Valley Athletic and Improvement Association, then you get a $25 credit. And then there is a refund policy. So if you cancel by October 22nd, you'll get a full refund. 10 days or later, then it is a no-go. It's a donation. So I'll put the link in the show notes if you want to register, and you can go ahead and get your advanced wilderness first aid. When you do these solo classes, Stosh, I don't know if you know that, but basically you're guaranteed that you're going to get called out on a rescue. Always happens.
Yeah, we had for the search and rescue team back in the Catskills, I think one of our first trainings was by Solo, and it was extensive. You learned so much. You learned beyond what you thought you would learn in wilderness first aid. it's absolutely fantastic to take, and and it really kind of helps you in those situations where you might get stuck and you're a big oh shit, but they train you. They're just like, this might happen.
Right.
So why not assess the situation at the time?
Legit. And if you're listening to these podcasts, or either one of our podcasts, chances are you're going out like probably more than the average hiker. You're going out 20 plus times a year. So the odds are ever increasing that something's going to happen. I just had an issue this summer. I had a nasty finger thing, but like that could have easily been an ankle. I would have been screwed.
Yeah, exactly. And ankles are the ankles, legs, stuff like that is the most common thing that you'll run into on the trails that you're going to have to assess the situation and dive in.
Right, exactly. So I'm going to move on to something new here, Stosh. We got a listener who we're going to toot our own horn here. So we got kind words from a listener. We always like to give a shout out to the listeners whenever they send us kind words. So indulge me for a moment, right?
Will do.
Excellent. So dear Mike Stompin, so this comes from listener Andy. Dear Mike Stomp and Nick, and all your well-curated guests. He didn't realize we had you on, Stosh, but otherwise. But thank you for hosting such a great podcast. I discovered your podcast this spring while prepping for a Pemi loop. I've had a very stressful summer with a new job that has kept me from heading up north as much as I'd like, but your podcast has been a lifeline, helping to keep me feeling connected to the mountains even when I can't hike. I listen to your new and old episodes in my long commute and feel like I've gained significant knowledge of the White Mountain National Forest through your stories and advice. The history segments are fascinating, and your SAR stories and interviews are especially beneficial, and I've already modified my habits based on what you've discussed. With a larger project behind me, I'm finally able to get back out on trail. My dog Inky and I did Pass Conway and Whiteface this weekend, and it was very special to listen to this week's episode Sunday morning as we drove up. I'm back to training for my Pemi loop and looking forward to more frequent trips north. Thanks again for everything this podcast has provided. It's kept me sane this summer, and I truly enjoy listening to these episodes. So thank you, Andy. These kind of words mean a lot to us. And, I don't really solicit much feedback, and I do hear from people occasionally, but it's nice to get a little bit of a shout out. And I'm glad that we were able to solve some of your boredom. I'm not shocked that anybody listens to us, but nice words.
Oh yeah. You're shocked. Yeah. Right. You guys have a great show going on. And then those kind words are, once again, coming from a podcast, are always helpful, and it keeps you going on.
Right. Yeah. It motivates you for sure, because there's a little bit of work that goes on behind the scenes there. So
agreed.
Awesome. So when you were up in New Hampshire, Stosh, did you have you hiked Mount Washington? You tend to go into the Pemi, right?
Yeah, so I did the Prezi Traverse last year, actually.
Oh, you did do that last. So you did the Pemi 2 years ago.
2 years ago.
Okay, yep. So you did the President's. All right, so you've been around the Cog Railway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so have you ever gone up the Cog?
No, we did straight from up to Madison Hut all the way over to what's that trailhead down on Pierce. Past Pierce. Crawford. Yep, we did all that.
All right. Well, I wanted to just take a moment to give a shout out to the Cog Railway. So we have our friend Andy on, who's the train master. Matter of fact, we're going to be doing some So You Wanna episodes pretty soon. But I had my father with me. I had to run some errands up in Vermont the other day, and my father was with me. So my father's 80 years old, and he does listen to the podcast, and I talked to him about hiking, but he's never really been a hiker. So we were up in Vermont, and we had some extra time, and I was like, why don't we swing by? We'll go up the Cog Railway, and you can get up to Mount Washington and check it out and see what it's all about. So he had gone up probably 25 years ago with his brother. He drove up the auto road, and then he took us one time when we were kids. So he was kind of like, yeah, this will be good. I'll check it out. So, and I had wanted to go up the Cog because I had never done it before. So we actually rode the Cog up and down, which was cool. It was pretty fun.
Nice. Yeah. When I was doing the Prezi, I actually got perfect timing to where the Cog was coming up when I was crossing. Yeah. So it was really funny because everybody was looking at me, waving at me. And I'm just like, why the hell are these people waving at me?
Right. I'll talk about that because I wanted to just give the listeners a perspective, because there's a little bit of tension between the Cog and the hiking community. And I think we've tried to bridge the gap before, because from my perspective, history is history, and there's a good reason why that railway is up there. And, they constantly step up to help with rescues, and they are there for whenever hikers are in need. So, it's I think a good relationship, and I think people should recognize that the COG definitely does a good service to the community. So I was excited to go there. So first of all, the first thing I'll say about the COG is, if you're I'm in my early 50s, and sometimes I feel like, I'm getting a little bit older, I'm slowing down a little bit. If you want to feel young, go visit the COG midweek after school is in session. You will feel like the youngest person there, because it was like a lot of like older people up there.
Yeah. When you say that, like when I was hiking like through that part, a lot of the people coming down were older, and they all had there was like 30 of them with the same shirt on. Yeah. So I'm like, I know they rode the COG up, and then they're like, hey, I'll take the trail down, so it make me feel special. And you chat about how important the COG is, and I agree, with Mount Washington being one of the craziest mountains in the world. Yeah, you got to have like that escape route out to make things easier, so people don't die all the time.
Right. I mean, you could make I think the argument and the tension around this is that it's like, there's purists that for sure are like, well, there shouldn't be any huts in the mountains because those guys make money, and that's wrong. And then there shouldn't be anything on Mount Washington because it should be back to its original state, and there shouldn't be a road, and there shouldn't be but all that stuff was decided in the 1800s. Like, you can't unwind that anymore. So you just need to kind of live with what happened and then make the best of it. And I do think that the COG is moving forward to make the best of it. And most hikers, I think, understand that. And matter of fact, I personally love it in the winter. I think it's one of the best places to start off hiking, going up Ammonoosuc. So I'm a huge fan of the COG, but I wanted to experience it from the perspective of a non-hiker. And, I joke around, but a lot of elderly people, a lot of people that would otherwise never, ever be able to experience Mount Washington. So, which is good. Yeah. And we got it on like an absolutely perfect day. So 120 mile visibility, like 45 degrees on the summit, but sunny. So it was like a long sleeve shirt and shorts. And then you could see out to the ocean, and it was like 8 mile an hour wind at most. I didn't even feel any wind at all. So it was like a 9.9 out of 10 day up there. And, the process is pretty easy. So we got there. We did not have reservations. You can check on their calendar, and it'll show you exactly how many tickets are left per time. So they run from like, I think they, don't quote me on this, but I think they go from like either 8 or 9 o'clock until like 2 o'clock was the last train up. And they basically run on the hour. And it looks like they probably have, I don't know, about 100 people in those cars, maybe 80 people in those cars. And the way it's set up is that there's like a row of 3 on one side and a row of 2 on the other. And you buy your ticket, and they'll tell you, like, do you want a window seat? Do you want an inside seat? Whatever. And then it's just like an airline, you get in your 9 A, B, C, D, and E seats, and you just take your seat. So we got our tickets. We had to wait like maybe about a half hour. So my dad was walking around checking out, like, they have an interactive display up top that you can go check out the history of the COG Railway and how they made it. They've got food. They actually have beer in there too. So you can sit there and have a beer after a hike if you want to. And then they have downstairs, they have a gift shop, and then the ticket agency is down there. So it's pretty cool, and it's a good place in the winter. They keep it open too, so you can change out of your gear and stuff, which is great. But then you walk, basically when your train comes out, they tell you to get ready like 15 minutes before the departure. So you usually get there like quarter of, and you're going up. We went up the 1 o'clock or the 12 o'clock train. You line up, and then you just go, into the railway, and then typically it's like about 10 minutes of waiting. The conductor guy will give you like a little bit of an overview. He'll talk about the train car that you're on, a little bit of history, and then, once you're settled, the interesting thing on these is that the seats are like angled down when you're waiting, because when you start climbing up, then you're flat. But when you're waiting there, you're kind of like falling down a little bit. So I was like, why do I feel so weird at first? But pretty roomy seats up there. And then as you go up, the conductor, he'll give you like basically a presentation during the whole time. So he'll talk about the history. He'll talk about the work that the COG does on helping out with hikers and the relationship they have with the auto road and the Summit Observatory and the state park workers. And they'll talk about some of the wildlife, and they talk a lot about hiking and how dangerous it is to hike. They're very respectful towards the hikers. And a lot of times what ends up happening is that the conductor guy that's doing the presentation, he'll point out like, oh, and you can see these hikers coming up the Gulf side or whatever. And then everybody starts waving. So that's probably what happened when you experienced it.
Yeah, it's probably what happened. I was recording them.
Yes.
So it was pretty fun. It was one of those, like you said, it was those bluebird days in July. So we had it at least in the high 50s. So we were lucky.
Yeah, it was awesome. And I was like explaining to my dad, like there was some times where when they have to do the switches like halfway up, they have to go off the microphone and pay attention to the safety piece of it. But they're paying attention to the safety piece of it the whole time. But they have to go off the mic at some point. So I was explaining to my dad some of the things I was seeing. And then some other guy behind me was like, oh, you really know this place. And then I was pointing out to them like the different summits and they were asking like, when are the trees going to go down? And I'm like, oh, they'll go down at like 4,500 feet. You'll get above tree line or whatever. So it was pretty interesting to just see the reaction, but they were all super impressed with the hikers. They were like, I can't believe people do this. And they just like decide to do this. How did they get up here? So it was kind of fun to just see the amazement. And then when we got off, I started looking at the people and I was like, most of the people getting off this train, like physically, they're either like not in physical shape where they could ever hike this, or they're too old to hike it, or, you know, they're too young or whatever. And I think it's a nice thing that they can get access to it. And they can experience the summit, take the pictures, learn about the mountain, because otherwise, like, there's no way that they would ever have a chance to do this.
Correct. And I feel that way with a lot of people, you know, a lot of people are going to be doing the stuff that you and I do.
Right.
Yeah. And, you know, summit seeking and stuff like that. I feel bad for, you know, them they're not ever going to be able to do that. But, you know, these certain organizations make that possible to go up to the top of the craziest mountain in the world.
Right. So it was great. And, you spend an hour up there. I got some food. I ran around the summit. My dad was like just sitting on a bench, just checking it out and enjoying himself. So I ran around the summit a little bit. I went over to Lizzie Bourne's memorial. So there's a memorial down there by the tracks that I never really got over towards. It's like near what they call Ball Crag and Nelson Crag. It's sort of on the auto road side of it, right next to the track. So I went over to Lizzie Bourne's memorial. So we've talked about her before. She was a 23-year-old it was 1855. She was one of the first, I think, big fatalities on the mountain. And her and her uncle, and I think it was a cousin of hers, they decided to hike up to the halfway house when the auto road was being built. And she was 23 years old from Kennebunk, Maine. And it was her Uncle George and her cousin Lucy. They walked up the auto road at the time, got to the halfway house. By the time they started the hike, it was like 2:00 in the afternoon. So this would have been in September, which is September is a tricky time because you can have a perfect day or you can have a miserable day. So at that time, it was basically a carriage road. They left at 2:00. They got up to the halfway house at like 4:00, and they were discouraged. They went up with like one of the workers. They hiked up to that part, and then they were kind of discouraged by the supervisor of the construction that was going on up there to say like, hey, you probably shouldn't go up there. And at that point, they continued onward, and they were taking a little bit more time than they should have. Lizzie was getting tired. And the construction workers at the halfway house basically said like, hey, a storm is brewing. But the girls basically said, let's go for it. We'll try to get up to the summit house, which is this little tip-top house. And they kept going. They walked right into a huge storm. And unbeknownst to them, like what ended up happening is they got pinned down on a storm because they got a little bit of visibility and they could see that the summit cone was like right in front of them. But the clouds were just covering it. So they didn't realize that the summit was literally like 100 feet above them. So at the time, there was no railway up there or anything to cover them. So they just basically hunkered down. They were like wide open. They were hunkered down. The uncle started building a rock wall. He was taking rocks and basically building walls to protect the girls. And then through the night, Lizzie died, and her cousin Lucy survived, and her uncle George survived. But like, they woke up the next morning and they essentially looked when the clouds cleared, and they were literally like 100 feet or 100 feet of distance to the house and the safety. So they like ran up there and was like, please help us. So, but they didn't know because they didn't have visibility. So it was like one of the early tragedies in Mount Washington.
Wow. That's got to be crazy to just the next morning look up and see it's like right there. It's within reach.
Right. Safety was right there, but they didn't know because it was just a whiteout, or it was just like clouds blocking everything, and it got too late. So start hiking early, even in the 1850s. So.
Nice.
But anyway, shout out to the whole COG family for the experience. They were, like I said, the guests were very curious, very respectful towards the hikers. The people that work at the COG were professional. They were really enthusiastic about their job, and I thought that they really put on a good experience, and I would highly recommend it for people to check out. Even if you're a hiker, just to go up there and check it out. Matter of fact, when we came down, there were a group of hikers that came down, and they had hiked up, and they were hiking down. They got a ton of questions, people asking them all kinds of, where'd you go up? What time did you start? What's it like? So if you want to feel like a celebrity, like hike up and then take the COG down. They'll treat you like gold.
Nice.
All right, you want to do some national stuff?
Hell yeah, let's do it.
All right, so we'll do national and world stuff here. So
Am I allowed to say hell? Is this still explicit?
You can say hell, yeah. I'll put the explicit rating on here. So you sent me this article. You want to intro this one and I can comment?
Yeah, which one?
This is the Grand Teton, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So a year ago, Michelino Sinceri was going to set the fastest known time up on the Grand Teton Peak, which is 13,000 feet over in Wyoming, 13,000-foot mountain and over in Wyoming. Mm-hmm. And he was trying to set the fastest known time, and at the time, he did, but they found out he cut a switchback. So there was a little route, we chatted about this on my last episode. There's a little route called the Climbers Route, and he went up, cut the switchback, and got the fastest known time. But when he came down, they were like, you didn't actually do the route that you were supposed to do. You cut the switchback. Now, everything like shit hit the fan after that, and then he got prosecuted for going on like cutting a switchback, which is really weird at the time, just because he went up a route that was closed at the time. Somewhat, they say closed. I wouldn't say it was closed to hikers, but closed to climbers as well. Yep. So it went all the fan, and he got prosecuted, sent to court, stuff like that. It's been a year. They found him guilty, and he's either right now, they don't know what's going on, a $5,000 fine or 6 months in jail.
Wow, that is wild. Like, I mean, I'd be curious to know what the distance was that he cut. I'm assuming it's probably pretty significant, but essentially, so if you go,
it's not, dude.
No,
it's not like it's miles. It's only like, I would say, like a quarter of a mile. Not even.
Really? So, but it's illegal to step off trail, basically.
Yes, yeah. This was it was really weird because, once again, it's a climbers route, so it's actually used by climbers. But he just cut it, and it came down, set the time, and a federal judge was at this. So this went federal. We're talking about, sorry to say it, taxpayers' money using for this kind of instance of where you're like, basically like, what the hell is this? Like, who is this guy? What is fastest known time to people that don't even know that and stuff?
Yeah. Wow. This is interesting. We just come from a world where like bushwhacking and going off trail is like not even a debate. So it's just fascinating that something like this could happen. We'll have to do a little bit more digging on this. I want to see what his track is and then what the regulation is.
Yeah, the Grand Teton is a 13,700 foot peak, and he did it in 2 hours, 50 minutes. And you probably covered this guy before, Kilian Jornet.
Yeah, I know the name.
The guy is just an absolute beast. And he's just setting fastest known times left and right. He's actually doing something called, like, he's going to do all 14,000 foot peaks by bike and hike. So check that out for your next episode. Right. We covered that in our last episode. Really cool stuff. But once again, this guy was like put back and forth and like just to cut a little bit of an area to be prosecuted at $5,000, 6 months in jail is just, it blows my mind, in a year. So how much money do they put forth to?
Yeah. And like the legal aspect of this is interesting. I may put Stomp on this one to research it a little bit more to see what the court documents say. But the other thing, just as we're talking about this, I don't have this on the script, but I should call it out. Like the southbound fastest known time, we had covered a little bit of this, like probably 2 or 3 episodes ago. So the unsupported guy that's doing the fastest known time on the Appalachian Trail southbound, I forget his name. He's moving along, and I think he's on pace, but he's still got a ways to go. But Christian Morgan, so Captain Morgan, he was trying to break Tara Downer's fastest known time record. He was going southbound, and he was past her pace, I think, going into about 20 to 25 days, but then I think he got about 30 days in and then started like basically falling back a little bit. And then he called it, I think, in somewhere around like the North Carolina border or something. He was just like, the math isn't mathing and my body's not keeping up. So he tapped out. So it's super impressive that Tara was able to do that, and that, it's going to hold at least this season, but it seems like people are going after it pretty aggressively. But what they're finding is that like this is just a superhuman feat that she did. And I don't know, it may stay for a while.
Yeah. And the guy you're chatting about, I forgot his name. Actually, the Free Outside is his Instagram post. Right. Jeff Gameyer.
Yes.
I follow him, and he is unsupported, and he's always giving updates. And I'm just like, once again, this is going to be that big E on the thing is what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, how can you do this unsupported? What is he doesn't say what day he's on. But like, it's just insane to say unsupported. That's the thing.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's got to do, I think so the fastest known time for Tara Dower is like 40 days and change. This guy's going to be, so the unsupported is 45, I think, in plus half a day or something like that. So they're still moving, but it's not as fast, obviously, as the supported, but it's still pretty fast.
That's freaking insane.
Right.
To be unsupported, Tara Downer, you have somebody charging you here and there, and this guy's just like, yeah, I sent my stuff to a refuels, like a respot station, and I'm going to pick it up. And then
yeah, logistically it's impressive too, like that unsupported, because you do have to plan everything out a little bit more. Like the ones that are going for the supported, like they basically just need a crew that is going to do all the logistics for them. They don't have to think about it, but this guy's got to figure everything out. I'm sure he's done the AT multiple times and he knows what he's doing, but it's impressive.
Yeah, I watched a previous time of where he went to a store and it was closed for the day, and he had to figure out how to get 5,000 calories. He's like, I have no place to go with 5,000 calories. What the hell am I going to do? Yeah. And luckily, he's just like, I felt shame. I asked people along the trail for their calories. Yeah. I'm just like, wow, like unbelievable.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, so moving on. This is one of the key reasons I want to have you on here. So there's been a couple of stories over the years. So matter of fact, last week's episode, we talked about a riot that happened on the Randolph Mountain Gray Knob cabin, where a bunch of guys just decided they were going to party. They were going to hike up to a cabin and party, get drunk, and they caused a bunch of trouble. There was another incident that we talked about quite a bit, where a guy took mushrooms and tripped out on the Zealand hut and climbed up, took all his clothes off, climbed up on the roof, and was yelling at hikers. And
I remember that.
Yeah, the state police had to come in and basically take him out. So we're always interested in these stories, but another one hit the news. This one made national news. And it was in the Catskills, which is Stosh's home base. And it was 4 hikers rescued after suffering debilitating psychedelic mushroom high. And they actually have a photo of one of the guys getting carried out or assisted off the trail. And he's basically bent over hugging one of the rangers and not looking so good. So what do you know about this one, Stas?
So recently I've had my recent interview with Ranger Jeffrey. He was involved on that.
Nice.
And I have a great relationship with the rangers in the park that we're in, and they are just fantastic people. And he said it was entertaining. And so Giant Ledge is around like 1.6 miles with 1,200 feet of gain. So it's a beast. But I would say that it's the third most popular hike in the Catskills. So you have Catskill Falls, 250-foot waterfall, easily accessible. You have Peekamu's Blue Hole, which is a swimming spot that everybody goes to, and then you have Giant Ledge, where everybody's like, 1.6 miles, oh, that's nothing. But you have 1,200 feet of gain, you have rocks and boulders, you have slippery areas, you have mud. Nobody that comes here, besides us hikers, suspect that. They think it's going to be an easy thing. So I guess, and they were just like, let's go to Giant Ledge. Let's get high and let's hike down, let's experience. The ledge is huge. The ledge is massive. It's a giant ledge, literally. And what Ranger Jeffrey said is that one of them, they all got high, but one of them experienced a really bad trip. And it was starting to take over, and it was starting to I wouldn't say put him on the dark side, but get him experience that he was off. And they had to remind him of very, very many amount of times that he, was here and we're here to help him. And then he would switch back to something else. And they said it was, everybody, it was a successful mission. It took only a couple hours. And that, once again, they went up, got high, came down, got sort of lost off trail. And then, a little bit later, they experienced once where they were near the trail, they're the guy looks for his keys and he doesn't have his keys. So they had to escort the one guy back to his rentals property. And then the Ranger Martin, who's an awesome guy. He's one of the coolest. He's been on the show multiple times. I've done search and rescue with him.
Yep.
He went back and found the pack, one of those little, I don't even know what they call them.
Like a string bag or something?
Yeah, like a string bag beneath some ferns. So he did extensive search to find this. So it was something else. And this, once again, national news, of course. And months ago, we had a person who broke her leg up there, and they had an awesome extensive rescue that involved so much stuff, but that never had any traction.
Right. Do you are you a drug guy? Do you do drugs, anything like that?
No, I have good old hard ciders and stuff like that, but no drugs.
Yeah, me neither. I was never really much of a drug guy or whatever. So, but I don't get the appeal. But it's always shocking to me how common this is. These young guys just decide they're going to either. I mean, I know a lot of hikers that have the what do they call them, safety meetings where they smoke pot and it's a good time. I have friends that do that when I'm hiking with them, and it's never really impacted the hiking experience, but to actually take psychedelics and go out there, I understand the appeal, I guess, just from a perspective of oh yeah, the visuals would be so cool because you're in the woods, but holy crap, is that dangerous?
Yeah. I mean, just the aspect of being on Giant Ledge, you're already standing there and there's, 100 feet of drops, and just to one little slip, man, and you're done. And to be up there, there's already a high up there when I get that viewpoint. It's just, there's a massive high. I don't understand why you would want to experience an even more high to where coming down would be a lot difficult, would be just insane.
Yeah. How old were these guys? Do you have any idea?
They said they're 20s to 30s.
Okay, so old enough to know better then.
I would say so. I would think so. But I mean, they're just probably getting right back into college, and they're just let's do one last party.
Maybe. Yeah. So it is. The other three are probably Jesus, Tom, you screwed it up for the rest of us.
Exactly. I guarantee. They were man, we were going to have a good time, man. Yeah. But no. And this is not this is you said, this isn't the first time. We've had several instances of this in the Catskills. One that maybe we'll talk about that later, it was actually very crazy.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, so put a pin in that, and we'll talk about that when we get to your little segment here. But I got a couple of stories. I've got a theme here of parents and fathers mostly like getting their kids into trouble in the wilderness, and then I've got like this one story about like living in isolation. So anyway, I was originally going to pull this out of here because there is like a violence aspect to it. So I guess trigger warning if you don't want to hear about violence. I know we're in a weird time right now, but essentially we've covered this story before. There's this guy, Tom Phillips, who he was in a beef with his wife. And again, I don't know why these guys do this, but like for whatever reason, there's a custody dispute. He's got 3 daughters, and he decides that instead of like dealing with the wife and working out whatever the issues they've got with their divorce, he's apparently like a pretty good wilderness survival guy. In New Zealand has like a lot of corners and areas that you can hide in. So he basically took his 3 kids and went on the run in the wilderness in New Zealand over a custody dispute. And the kids at the time were younger, but now they're assumed to be 9, 10, and 12. So he had a dispute with the mother in 2021. Apparently it was like about to lose custody of the kids. And then, he basically just decided like, I'm going to take these kids to the wilderness and we're going to live. So he actually was out there for 4 years, very similar to, we had a case with a guy in Maine. You ever hear of the Maine hermit? Did you ever hear that story?
Yeah, you guys covered that, right?
We've covered that before too. I don't know what episode, but essentially there was a hermit guy. There was a kid that just basically left home and he was living out in the wilderness, and he basically survived, like, and I'm assuming New Zealand may be similar, but up in Maine, and I'm assuming in the Adirondacks, probably have this like bunch of cabins around, and people will leave their cabins for the winter, and this guy would break in. He would steal propane tanks. He would steal food. He would steal equipment. He would steal whatever he could, gasoline, anything that he could in order to sort of survive. And he actually survived in the winter in like the frigid conditions in northern Maine for, I think it was like 25 years or something like that. And the police knew about this guy, and they would get him on camera sometimes, so they would get pretty close to him, and people would spot him, hunters and stuff like that, but they never were able to pin him down. So he was known as the Maine hermit. So this guy that we're talking about here, he would, Tom Phillips, he basically was the same deal. He would like have the kids in the wilderness, but he would come into civilization. Somehow he got a hold of like a 4-wheeler. So he did have like a little bit of transportation that he would get around on his 4-wheeler. So, but for 4 years they've spotted the guy. There's been hunters that have seen the 3 kids with him, but they've never been able to pin him down. They had like a big reward for him, but finally they've been living off the grid. They had an $80,000 reward for the guy, and finally they got the best lead on the guy in October of 2024, where he was spotted by pig hunters. But a couple of weeks ago, they got closed caption TV footage of him breaking into a business that showed him and one of his kids on a 4-wheeler breaking into this business. And, the kids are obviously, at this point, they've been with the father for 4 years, so they're bonded with him. And what ended up happening is that they were able to, I guess, locate the guy finally, and they basically were alerted to him breaking into a farm goods store at like 2:30 in the morning in like one of these native New Zealand townships. And unfortunately, he got into a altercation with the police and died. And they've got one of the children was with him. So they've got that child in custody, probably the oldest, but they don't know where the other 2 are. So I'm assuming they're probably working with the oldest kid to get her to like basically tell where the other 2 are. The other 2 are probably like sitting out there in the wilderness waiting for their father and sister to come out. So it's a crazy story. So
yeah, definitely. When you shared this with me, I was just like, I got to dig deeper into this, and just finding out, 4 years in the wilderness with 3 different kids, it's just got to be insane, especially, for the children what's going on right now,
right
inside their heads of just like, where's our father? He hasn't returned. It's about that time. And New Zealand's a small place. Like, where could you be? Like, it's just, I know there's that one wilderness that surrounds that volcano that's absolutely crazy. That's just, there's plantation, like farmland all around it. And then there's that one wilderness that goes up that volcano. It's just tight as heck.
Yeah. So it's kind of a crazy story. So we'll keep an eye out and see if the other two daughters are located, but they're probably like they said, they're probably pretty well bonded with their father, and he probably gave them instructions like, don't, hide if you see anybody. So it's going to be tricky. So.
Yeah, you show the footage too. He's well prepared, covering himself and stuff like that. He knows what he's doing.
Oh yeah, the kids are in full camo and stuff. So yeah, this guy's a legit wilderness dude. And then on that same theme, we got another story here of an American dad who dragged his 13-year. Josh, did you ever get in trouble when you were a kid?
Very rarely. I was playing sports, so I didn't want to get in trouble, so I could be off the sports team.
So you were the golden child. I on the other hand got in trouble quite a bit. So I would get my privileges on watching TV taken away, or I'd have to sit in my room with no TV. So a lot of removing the TV access was the punishment for me. But anyway, my father was a hardo, but he was not as hard as this guy, Mark Alexander Cummings Rogers, I guess. I don't know why this guy has 4 names, but he's got Mark Rogers, we're going to call him, 51, allegedly disappeared with his teen son without telling anyone to a secluded area Wednesday. The father and son were reported missing on August 28th in the area of Balneario Camboriá in southern Brazil, and they ended up being found a couple of days later, and they were camping in the middle of a forest. I guess these guys are from California, and the father decided that he wanted to detox his 13-year-old son from television and technology by heading in the forest. So they've been living in Brazil for the last 6 years. So this was I guess they were reasonably familiar with this, but and the son has Nicaraguan citizenship. So I don't know what this guy's down in the middle in Central America living his best life, but he's got a kid now, and he's got the kid tied into his nonsense. But anyway, they were missing, and he's detoxing this kid in the middle of the jungle in Brazil. So it made national news in Brazil, but I guess they pulled the guy out and found that he's got American plates on his car, and the kids, I think they took the kid away from the guy. They're like, "You're crazy. Leave the kid alone."
Yeah, it looks pretty sketchy, detoxing your son to take him out in the middle of the wilderness, like crazy Brazilian wilderness, is just a little bit too extreme.
Yeah, there's so many. The guy's got 4 names. He's from California. He's been living in Brazil for 4 years. There's so many red flags going off here, Stosh. I don't know where to begin.
Yeah, I mean, this is a good one to follow, definitely, to see.
Right.
If this guy was a freaking Jason Bourne type of person.
I don't know what's going on, but the 13-year-old, he's got to just give that kid an iPad and an Xbox and let him just go. So
that's probably what he wanted. He's like, Dad, can I just freaking have the iPad and we can just call this even?
Right. So anyway, these 2 stories got me thinking. I was like, I remember we covered a story previously. I don't know what episode, but there's this family, and so we talked about the Maine hermit, talked about these 2 wacky dads that are dragging their kids off in the wilderness. There's a story of a Russian family called the Makova family that went on a wilderness journey of their own. For 40 years, they had no contact with anyone. So in 1936, the father and the mother and their son and daughter went out into the Siberian wilderness. So they were in the Taiga wilderness in 1936. So apparently they were part of this Christian sect that was harassed. So when the Bolsheviks and communist patrols threatened them, and I guess this guy's brother was killed, Karp Lykov decided to pull his immediate family out of society, and they took off into the Siberian wilderness. So they had the mother, the daughter, and the mother, the father, and the 2 kids, I guess the son Savin and the daughter Natalia. And then later there were 2 others born in the wild. Dmitry was born in 1940 and Agafia was born in 1944. So there's 4 kids and the parents. They took seeds with them and some farming tools when they left to build crude shelters and huts. They patched their clothes, and then they cultivated these gardens, and they basically lived on potatoes, rye, hemp seed, wild plants, berries, mushrooms, roots, bark and grass, and then they would hunt sometimes, but they had no guns. Frequently, they had famine. So they did this for 40 years. In 1960, a frost killed all the crops, leading to near starvation. And eventually, the mother did die of starvation in 1961. So she must have chosen not to eat so that the kids could eat, right? That's what I'm guessing.
Wow. Just,
yeah.
You're going over all this, and I'm just like, lived off of hemp seeds and berries and mushrooms and roots.
In the Siberian wilderness. It's crazy.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to picture, is just Siberian wilderness. Right. Just absolutely insane.
Right. So anyway, so they kept religious books. So they had prayer books and an old family Bible as their reading material. So the kids did learn how to read and write by the mother using natural tools. And then isolation basically insulated them from modern events. So they had no knowledge of world history, technology, or major events, basically just secondhand stories from the parents. So anyways, so 1936, they get going. Dmitri and Agafia are basically born in this. They don't have any memory of, and Natalia was 2 years old. So Savin, the son, was like 9 years old. So he probably had some memory. But by 1978, just randomly, these geologists were flying a helicopter looking for a place to land. And they saw this clearing that looked like it was okay on a mountainside in the South Siberian taiga, far from any settlements. And they looked at it, they were like, there's people living down there. So they reported it. And then some of these folks that were involved in this geologist mission investigated, and they found the hut and then signs of habitation. And basically, the father comes out and he's afraid, but he does talk to them, and the scientists offer them gifts, and then they talk. The family is obviously freaked out because they hadn't seen anyone in 40 years, and they wouldn't even take food from them, but they tried to basically give them food. But eventually, like I said, the mother died of starvation in the 60s. In the fall of, so they basically made contact in 78, but they decided to stay in their hut. Or their hut area. So most of them did. So anyway, Savin and Natalia both died of kidney failure in the fall of 1981. And then Dmitri died of pneumonia. Basically, he caught an illness from the outsiders and he refused medical evacuation. So he ended up dying too. So basically, the geologist who met them made Dmitri sick. And then the father hung on until 1988, died in his sleep, an old man. And then Agafia was the youngest child born in the wild. She was the only surviving member, and she's, as of the article that I pulled, she's still alive. So,
wow,
which is crazy.
To go through two kind of major wars, world wars, the World War II and Vietnam, without any knowledge of it.
Yes.
It's pretty crazy, especially World War II when, shit hit the fan basically everywhere. So,
right. So anyway, that's
to live off of that, just to go that long, shows that you can do it by yourself. It's just, you got to have the skill and stuff.
Yeah, but I mean, it's like, I don't know if I want to live like that, but I get that. But you think about it, that's how people live their whole lives for for thousands and thousands of years. What is it about, why is it that we're just living in this time where we've had this rapid technical explosion, from in our lifetime? It's just weird to think about, most people lived like these people in Russia.
Yeah, it's crazy to think that, we have air conditioning. Yeah. We have heat and stuff like that. And these people every day, especially where the Siberian wilderness, up there, they had to go and cut wood probably every day. They had to use fire every day. So everybody in the family was working constantly to just survive. Right. So it's a crazy story. But anyway, if you think you're going to go out in the wilderness, maybe think twice about it. Just I don't know. Go see a therapist instead. Don't drag your family into your nonsense. So. Yeah, right. Don't drag them out just because they're looking at their iPad too much. Right. So anyway, all right. So moving on from that theme, we've got a couple of other stories here. So one of these is a final text message hiker sent to wife before his body was found underneath a ledge on a 13,000-foot mountain. So this guy from Minnesota is hiking.
He was hiking Bighorn Mountains in Wyoming, found dead on August 26 near the top of Cloud Peak, which is the highest summit. So this guy was an experienced hiker, 38 years old, was doing a 3-day trek through the area. Was supposed to reach the top of this 13,000-foot peak. Made contact with his wife on the evening of July 29th, letting her know that he'd made it to the summit. But he said he was more exhausted than he expected, so maybe he was dealing with some altitude stuff. Who knows? And eventually he just didn't return home. And they started a search operation at the beginning of August and suspended it after like 3 weeks. And then they did end up finding him when a professional climbing team from North Carolina noticed a reflection off of an area that they were climbing. And then that's when they contacted the county sheriff's office, and they knew that, okay, we've got our guy here. And there's photos of him with his wife, and the guy's definitely like, he looks outdoorsy, Stosh, from what I can tell.
Yeah.
And
definitely the pictures, it looks like he's over in like Sweden or Switzerland or something like that. So he's definitely been out. He's well experienced.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing. But unfortunately, like, who knows what happened? He might have got, just overestimated the hike or whatnot. But basically, they were able to locate him based on the sighting of the climbing crew, and the wife and he's got 13 and 11-year-old kids. So obviously, they're happy that they were able to at least get resolution, and I think that they were able to locate him and recover him via a search and rescue helicopter. So there is a GoFundMe page which has been organized for his family. So they've raised $66,000 towards a $100,000 goal as of September 1st. So we'll put the link in the show notes if you want to throw them some money. But sad story, and guy lived doing what he loved to do. But it is sad to think that 13 and 11-year-old, like that's a tough age to lose your dad.
Yeah, and it looks like, like you're looking at the profile of the peak. It's definitely remote. It definitely has a lot of elevation gain going from, it looks like the south of where you're going to battle it. And, who knows what happened, because it looks basically like this is very open summit from like 3/4 of the way all the way to the top.
Right. So. Right, yeah, and I don't know, maybe he wasn't familiar with the region or whatever. Sometimes you get exhausted. It could have been too cold, too hot, who knows. But I don't know how much experience this guy had in this particular. That's the thing, is like, you could be the most experienced hiker in the world. If you're in a new area, like, a lot of that doesn't matter.
Especially something happens, ankle roll. And you're trying to figure out how to get out. And this looked like, once again, if you go and look at the map, it shows that it's basically all just loose rock, some scree and stuff like that. So one little fall and you can just tumble, and you're going down thousands of feet. Right.
And it's like the surface of Mars up there. So looks like a cool area, though. I definitely like to check it out in the future, but I'll take a guide with me. So.
Yeah, right. I mean, Wyoming is wild in itself, just because I think it's either Wyoming or Montana has one of the most remote areas furthest away from any road as possible. So who knows?
Awesome. All right. A couple more stories here. We like a good grizzly bear story. So
always,
although this one may be if they're not a black bear, then I just consider them a grizzly. But this one's like a medium-sized brown bear. So a hiker injured in Glacier National Park bear encounter. So a lot of people like to go to Glacier. There are bears there, so look out. Not just black bears, but the big scary kind. Like what is that saying? Like if it's brown, lay down. If it's black,
shut it down,
something like that. Yeah. Anyway, a female hiker was injured by a bear near Lake Janet on Wednesday afternoon. First time a bear had had an injury or a bear encounter was reported in Glacier this year. So that's a pretty good run. It's September. 34-year-old, she was hiking westbound with a partner when a medium brown colored sow. Is a sow a girl or a boy?
It's a boy, I believe.
Okay.
You once again, sorry. That. Like, we were not familiar with that.
I think that might be a girl. A sow emerged from the brush and charged her. Okay, it's a female. She was. Oh, this makes sense. So the bear was accompanied by 2 cubs. So the sow, the mom, swiped at the woman and injured her shoulder and arm. And then, but luckily, the bear ran away after the woman's hiking partner deployed bear spray. And the full encounter lasted about 30 seconds. So the pair continued on to the campground where they had a hell of a story when they met up with all the other hikers. And one of the other hikers had an in-reach, so they sent out an SOS. And then park staff and an air ambulance team located the hiker in stable condition. Hopefully, they weren't losing too much blood. They said no action will be taken against the bear at this time because they explained that the encounter occurred on a trail confined by the lake in dense brush, and that the bear reacted defensively to a surprise. So they could not confirm the species, so they don't know if it's black or a grizzly bear. But if I were the lady, I would be like, yeah, it was definitely a grizzly bear, and it was like 9 feet tall, and I survived. So that's a story.
Yeah, write a book about it.
Yeah. And then if you, some people think that, like, okay, if I have a dog with me, that may prevent me from getting attacked by a bear, but there's a bear biologist in Utah that studied more than 300 conflicts involving dogs in North America, and 80% of the time, believe it or not, Stosh, the dogs were useless. Absolutely useless. They didn't respond to bears attacking their human. In many cases, the dogs just sat there and was like, you're on your own. I'm faster than you, human. So...
Or look at the size of that damn thing, and like, I ain't gonna go after that.
Can I have? Is that another dog I can play with? So anyway, don't count on your dog to protect you because they're basically useless.
Yeah, multiple dogs, maybe you have 2 or 3 dogs. They might be like a pack and use their sound and their barks and stuff to scare off something else, but. One dog will just be like, hell no, this is not my league, I'm out.
And the thing about the dogs, too, is this study, like it explains. So the study's called the Canine Conundrum, and I'll link this, but it's not even that the dogs are like useless when it comes to protecting you, but 54% of the incidents, the dogs are the ones that trigger the conflict with the bear in the first place. So if you're not with your bear...
Well, then there you go.
I mean, I love dogs. Like Arlo the Beagle, he's not going to do this to me. He would never do that, but other dogs might. So, but
yeah, it's crazy. I mean, have you ever seen a grizzly bear?
No. I think at zoos I've seen them before, but not at not real life.
So up in when my wife and I went up to Banff, we encountered on the way back down from a place called West Wind Pass. It was around like a 10,000-foot mountain. We went down and we were traveling, and I saw something like really weird off to the side. So I pulled her backpack, and I'm just like, hold on. And then he popped his head up, and I was just like, oh shit, there's a grizzly bear. And she panic attacked and ran up the mountain. And I took a couple pictures, and I turned around. And he stood up a little bit more on his legs, and then he fell backwards down into the ravine. And it was just one of those instances of like, holy shit. And we went back up to there's a trail junction, and we talked to the people, and this woman had a full-on panic attack when we told her that there was a grizzly bear. She was sweating, was breathing heavily and stuff like that. And we're like, well, we're just trying to tell you to stay off that trail. And you have to, up in Banff, you have to call parks police and stuff like that. And they close off the trail, they monitor it and stuff like that. So it's a big deal up there.
I've seen tons of videos of Banff where it'll be like I saw one video of, I think there was a hiking guide, and it was like a family. There was probably 15, 20 people. And the bear was it was grizzly bear just sauntering down the trail, and they all needed to climb up the side of the trail. Was flat, but then it was up against a little mountain, so they had to climb 10 feet up off the trail to sort of stand higher than the bear. And the bear was just sauntering by them, and they're all just like, everyone be calm, don't make any sudden movements, everyone be calm. And the bear just walked right by them. But I've also seen the video in Banff where the bear was basically following this family and a bunch of other hikers, and everybody's just stay calm, don't run, but everyone's going super fast walking. So it's crazy out there.
It's definitely one of those situations. We had to be we bought bear spray out in Banff, and two I call them snowboarding dudes taught us about it, and they were just like, yeah, you just gotta spray it up and down, man. And then just just be cool and stuff. And I was just like, is this really going to protect me against a bear? It's a grizzly bear? No, not really.
Hope for the best.
It's a good time.
All right. Well, just getting back to this, in defense of dogs, there is one thing I will say is that 80% of the time these dogs are useless. But if you happen to have a dog that actually is brave and willing to go after, basically, if you have a reactive dog that's willing to go after a bear, then 80% of the 20% of the dogs that will actually defend their humans, 80% of the time, it works out pretty well for the humans. So if you have like a tough dog that's willing to like go after that bear, then it will protect you. But there is a small percentage of time where the dog tries to attack the bear, but the bear decides it's going to go after the human. So good luck with that.
Good luck with that. Well, good advice. Good advice.
Anyway, so we'll see. The dog owners are going to come for me. So,
oh God, watch out! Don't do that.
Are you ready for Slasher's Gear Review?
Hey, you got any good gear that you've bought lately? Anything new?
You know, I haven't bought anything new recently. I would say one of my most recent purchases is my Helly Hansen. It's a full-on SAR jacket. It's I think it's like called the Shell 3. It has like rain, wind, snow, stuff like that. I'd say it's very expensive, but after the Pemi hike where I had, difficulty with the rain, so we had 2 straight days of pouring rain. I had my first time with a North Face rain jacket, which was just absolutely miserable, and I put on my Helly Hansen jacket the second day, and it was absolutely phenomenal. But I recently ripped that because I was bushwhacking and just caught a tree branch. So I bought this one, and it's absolutely phenomenal. Just protects me. I've hiked out negative 18 degree temperatures, and I had a t-shirt, a long sleeve shirt, and then what's Bergeron up in New Hampshire? Yeah. Bergen. I had one of them shirts on, and then the Helly Hansen on. No puffy or anything like that, and it's kept me warm as heck.
I like the Helly. I have like a pullover, like a quarter zip fleece Helly Hansen that my wife got, and I love that. And matter of fact, there's a store in Boston, but you're right, they're super expensive. Like their shells are nice, but they're like legit. They're like Arc'teryx, like kind of like around that range. So, but they're nice for sure.
Yeah, I mean, they're tested out in the open waters. They're mostly used for boaters and stuff like that, boat racers stuff, and it's just, I find it 100% worth it, especially if you're going out, like you and I, we love the winter. We love experiencing these extreme kind of temperatures. It's every bit worth it.
The one thing I will say is I've converted the last year and a half or so. Like when it rains out, like I don't mess around with shells anymore. If it's warm, and it doesn't work when you bushwhack, and it doesn't really work that well if you're going above tree line. But I use an umbrella now. I'm a huge convert to umbrella. I love it because the thing I like about it is like you don't sweat as much when you wear a shell, and you have a little bit more control. Like, all right, I'm getting a little bit of wet on the back, so I'm going to put the umbrella behind me a little bit more. Or I gotta clear like wet trees in front of me, and I've just been a huge fan of it lately, and it's been working out for me on the trails here. It's not going to work everywhere, but it works for me. Yeah.
Interesting. Mike, I got a big question. I've following the podcast for a while. I remember you were anti-hiking poles, and now you are full-on hiking poles, correct?
I use hiking poles, so I don't know. I don't know if I was ever anti-hiking pole. You may be confusing me with Stomp.
Well, then I thought you said you never used. I wouldn't say anti. You just didn't use them, and then used them. And you're like,
I've had periods where I didn't use them because I would do like trail running and whatnot. But I think I had to double check with Stomp. I feel like Stomp might have been. You were maybe right. I can't remember now. I'm getting old in my old age, but I definitely you've been using poles consistently for at least the past 3.5 years or so. Yeah.
Nice, man. Nice. And do you have any suggestions, or you like me when I just buy the cheapest because when I bushwhack, I just fall on them and they bend and I just this is useless.
I had black diamond poles for a long time, like those red ones with the black, locking, mechanisms, but then the tips wore down all the way to the point where like I couldn't use them anymore, and because they would slip on the rock if I used them. So I ended up getting the flash poles from REI, which I think was like a trade-off. Like they were reasonably priced, and then they were super light, way lighter than my Black Diamond poles. So that's what I've been using. But I do think like the tips do wear down over time. So I may be up for a new pair next year. But I'll probably stick with the REI Flash. I've been happy with those.
Just ask somebody for new tips, because they're like just push on tips, right?
I don't know. I haven't looked at that. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't looked at it to see how it is. I know with the Black Diamond ones, like they didn't sell replacements, so it completely broke.
Oh, that's sad.
Plus, I'm not like I don't waste much time with the handy stuff if I can just buy a new pair. But I'll check it out. So.
What about you?
I don't have any new gear, but Stomp was nice enough to add a couple of gear stuff here. So Stomp finally found a natural non-aluminum based deodorant here. So do you use deodorant, Stas?
I do. I'm old school. What is it called? Spice. What is it? Old Spice.
You look like the type of guy that would smell nice. I'll give you a compliment.
I do. I try. I mean, you got it on the trail. I mean, I'm not hiker trash yet.
Yeah. So anyway, I wear something sport. I don't know what it is, but my wife buys it, and she says like, "You run." I say, "I'm running out of deodorant. Get me more deodorant." She just picks what she wants. But anyway, Stomp found this new deodorant that is Stomp is always looking to not poison himself. He's very nervous about that. So he found this rugged, woodsy, and strong deodorant, which is based on pine tar. And it is called Dr. Squatch, like Sasquatch. And they have a picture of a Sasquatch on the front of it. And it says, outdoor squatching deodorant. It has arrowroot, charcoal, postbiotics, and pine tar. And it's aluminum free. And it's $13 if you want to buy one of these. I might buy one of these just to check it out. Extra smooth glide. It's dermatology tested. And it smells like old brown forest, I guess. So that's...
It's all right. I've tried that out before. Yes. Once again, it's since it's aluminum based and it's natural, it doesn't last as long.
No, there's no aluminum in it. So that's yeah.
Oh, there's no aluminum. Yeah. So it burns off quicker. So of course, the more you work, the more it burns off. Right. So so we'll have to get the Stomp's full on assessment of this hour by hour, stuff like that. What he smells like.
But I'll do this for the listeners. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to smell Stomp next time I see him. So I will do this for the listeners and report back. So
yeah, first on, you just go. Well, you're not using your pine tar thing.
Yeah, exactly. All right. So there's another thing here. Stomp had put this in here. This 18-year-old kid, what were you doing when you were 18 years old? Were you running a business?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was trying to figure out my life and I was working. That was about it. Not doing this stuff.
So this 18-year-old kid, if you want to stay in shape and keep an eye on what food you're eating and how many calories there are. This kid, he's got a $1.4 million. This thing is bringing in $1.4 million a month. This kid is 18 years old. His name is Zach Yadagari, and he's getting ready to go to college. But in the meantime, he's the CEO of something called Cal AI, which is a calorie tracking mobile app that he launched from his parents' home in Roslyn, New York in May of 2024. The app has been so successful, he's making $1.4 million in profit a month. And he's got 30 employees. And basically what this does is like if you make food, you take a picture of it. This sounds like a scam to me. I got to test this out. But this is the thing is like, I think it's a scam, but you got to pay $30 a year to get a subscription. And then it rolls over again to find out that it's a scam. But anyway, you take a picture of your food and then it'll tell you what the food is and then how many calories you're going to consume, which is pretty cool, right?
I would say so. I mean, like $250 a month, I mean, if you're, God, are we getting that lazy that we can't figure out the calories per day that we need an app to do? I don't know,
but listen to this kid. This kid he's just started undergrad classes at the University of Miami. Have you been to my University of Miami? I toured the school with my kid. It's like It's like
Negative.
they have like an Olympic-sized swimming pool that's like a country club. Everyone's walking around in bathing suits. It's like amazing down there. So anyway, this kid he's living a lavish startup CEO lifestyle. He's 18 years old, $1.4 million a month. He parties almost every night in an off-campus mansion he shares with all of his friends. And then I got to follow this kid on Instagram. And then he advertises this app and drives around in a Lamborghini with the Cal AI license plate. And he started coding when he was...
Sounds like Wolf of Wall Street.
He started
all
coding
over
when he
again.
was 7 years old and started playing Minecraft. And now he invented this app. And he's balancing being a CEO and a social media star with a college student. So... Anyway, this is called Cal AI, and if anybody's used this, I'm curious, but I may check it out and just see how well it works.
Are you sure about that, Mike? I mean, like, come on, man.
I gotta watch my weight here, so...
I mean, you're a guy that runs all the time, so you kind of burn it off and stuff like that. I mean, those bags of Cheetos at night,
Cheez-Its is what I use. Yes.
Cheez-Its. Sorry, damn it. I got it wrong. It's been a while, man.
We all know that hiking a mountain can be hard at times. So here's a corny dad joke to help you get over it. But
All right, I got a dad joke for you, Stosh, here. So what does a bad carpenter make?
Go ahead.
Loose stools. So
Jesus.
anyway.
Oh, man. Cheers, buddy. Right. Cheers.
Here's another one. When I won the world's best doppelganger competition, I was beside myself. Get it? Doppelganger. I was beside myself. Anyway, thank you to my friends Lance and Camilla for their dad joke book here. So
put a big smile.
All right, so we're going to do some housekeeping here, Stosh. So if you need stickers, you can get your free stickers at Ski Fanatics and Spinner's Pizza Parlor in Andover, Mass. If you want to advertise with Slasher, send us an email and we will we'll connect with you and help you advertise your business. And then if you want to get Slasher swag on our bonfire shop, you can do that. Check out SLASRPodcast.com. You can choose between our super popular hoodies, classic or V-neck tees, and more. Color selection is great, and they're priced to move, so help spread the word about Slasher and Represent Today. Anything you want to plug about Inside the Line?
I'm not that big. We're just starting out with kind of merch. I'm not making any money from it. I'm just selling it, kind of off of Squadcast, I believe.
Yep.
But we're just testing the waters and stuff like that. We got a decent following, but nowhere near what you guys have had. So
great. Well, send me the link and I'll put it in the show notes. I'm going to buy some merch. I want to get some stuff. So
from Slasher, not from me.
Yeah, well, from you too. So anyway, but we got a couple of coffee donations here. So we got a pretty good run here. So we got Danny Boyce /Zoomy. He had bought us one coffee and then he wrote us a nice note. So I'm going to run on that one for a minute. Mater Kuehl sent us 4 coffees. Warren Wheellock sent us 5 coffees, and then Spruce Fir, Vermont, which is if you're looking for like a good zip up storage pouch, and they have some great merchandise there. So, matter of fact, I'll put their link in the show notes here, but they bought us 3 coffees, so thank you so much. And then John Ackerman had got us 5 coffees. He had said, keep up the great work and hope to see you guys out on the trail sometime. And then going back to Danny Boyce, who is Zoomy, he had sent us a note here. So it was a nice note. He said, a friend listens to your podcast and heard about my rescue on April 29th from North Kinsman. He said, I'm the 74-year-old hiker from Bermuda Run, North Carolina, which is near Winston-Salem. So at the time I had commented on how that was such a cool town. So so Zoomy goes on to say, with the Pemi team's assistance, I was able to walk out. So he made it to Littleton Hospital. He had 11 stitches in his scalp and had surgery on August 26th to stabilize a hairline fracture of his left femur. The team and hospital were outstanding. Unfortunately, this ended my through hike attempt, and he section hiked the entire AT, and this is his final trip to be a through hiker. So Zumi, no shame at all in having to come off trail. You got injured. The biggest win on this one from my perspective is that you were, even under those circumstances, you were able to hike out on your own. Knowing that Pemi was there to help you out is huge, but hopefully, you don't need to do a full through hike here. If you want to come back up, I'm going to talk about a section up in Maine called the Baldpates. You can do these sections, drive around. Hit us up if you're up here. I'll definitely go hiking with you, Zumi, and I hope you feel better soon. So,
yeah, I mean, kudos to him for getting out of there by himself. That's one hell of a feat. That's bragging rights right there.
Right. Yeah, he made it all the way to Georgia up to the Kinsman, had an accident, and, it is what it is at this point, so...
Hey, hold my beer. It's time to find out what Mike and Stomp are drinking on this week's Beer Talk.
All right, Stosh. So now's the part of the show we talk about what beer we're drinking. I am not drinking a beer, so shame on me. But what do you got?
Outrageous, Mike. I think you would plan for this. You know me, don't you? You know me.
I know. I knew you would have a beer too, but I just forgot to get one.
Mike, I know you're a little bit older than me, but you know the term basic white bitch?
Yes.
So It's that time of year where stuff's starting to turn, and I have myself a Hudson North toasted pumpkin hard cider.
Oh, wow. So you're going right into fall.
I unfortunately am. That's what they got. And, I decided to dive in. They do really good stuff. Hudson North has really good taste. It doesn't have any killer bite back. It doesn't have any killer, what is it called? Compression, stuff like that. It's really smooth and stuff like that. So
great. Yeah. I haven't switched over to any pumpkin beer, but I did notice my wife has pumpkin spice coffee in the shelf now. So I definitely know fall is coming. Yeah. So
it's coming.
I knew we should have gone left back there.
Stomp, don't worry. I know it's this way. I've got a feeling in my gut.
Are you sure you're not about to have a bowel emergency?
Totally. We got this.
But I just blew out my hip. Fell down that gully with my 40-year-old microspikes.
Suck it up, Stomp. It's 4 p.m. We're at 3,500 feet. We got 9 miles back to the parking lot. Your leg may be broken. We got no cell connection, and we can't feel our fingers. But we're finishing all of my list tonight. By the way, I need some water. I'm empty.
I would if I could see what I'm doing, but my headlamp batteries are dead.
You gotta be kidding me. What a chump. This is the last time I hike with you.
Whatever, mister. Do you know me? I have a podcast.
Whatever.
Let's find out what Mike and Stomp have been hiking.
All right, so we're going to talk about your trip to the Pemi in a few minutes, but I wanted to just get into recent hikes here. So I did a couple of hikes in the last couple of weeks or so. So the first one I did a new area that I've never gone to, which is, it's called the Baldpate Mountains. And these are up on the Appalachian Trail in western Maine. So as you get into Maine, basically, as you get to the eastern part of New Hampshire on the Appalachian Trail, and you'll go through the Carter-Maria Range, and you go out to Rattle River, and then you'll hit the Mahoosucs, and then you come out of the Mahoosucs in Grafton Notch. On the other side of Grafton Notch, as you go across Route 26, there is a section called the Baldpate section, which is a 10-mile section of trail that goes out to, I think it's called East Bee Hill Road. And like I said, it's about 10 miles. It's not crazy elevation gain. It's, I don't know, maybe 3,000 feet, 3,500 feet of gain. I go up and down a little bit, but not too bad. And I did this hike with my friend Tom and my friend Peter. So we talked about them on the show quite a bit. So we had a nice free day of time off. I think it was the Friday before Labor Day. So we went up, spotted a car at East Bee Hill Road, and then drove back over to Grafton Notch, started our hike. And I will say this section of the Appalachian, I'm assuming you haven't done this, Stosh, but if you did, let me know. Yeah.
No, not at all.
Okay, so this is a like I said, you start in Grafton Notch, and then you'll head east towards the Baldpates, and the lower section of this trail is absolutely beautiful. Like, I've never seen trail maintenance like this. Like, literally, they have like nicely set up stairs on the trail up until like about 3,000 feet of elevation. So I think you top out at like 3,500, 3,600 feet of gain, but it's absolutely beautiful. And you eventually you get to Baldpate, you get to a bald summit, and then you get a nice view of the actual true summit. So you get to I think it's probably like West Baldpate summit, and then you get to the true summit. When you get to West, you get this nice, awesome view of the summit that's above you. You got to drop down into a col, which is kind of this open ledges area. It kind of reminds me of like Caribou Mountain in Maine, or it might remind me of like those sections in between the Baldfaces or in between Moat Mountain Range where you're kind of in and out of the trees, but you sort of feel above tree line the whole time. So drop down a little bit, and then you do this like open face rock climb that's like a steep angled climb, very similar to like the ledges on Welsh Dickey, I would describe it as. And then once you get up, it's very similar to parts of the Mahoosic Range traverse as well, where you'll head down, but gradually, and you get nice views ahead of you of like sort of open fields. And eventually you do drop down into tree line, and probably so most of the above tree line is between like miles 2.5 to like maybe 5.5 or so. And then you get below tree line again, you start dropping a little bit, you get to the low point, and we just basically took our time that day. It started to rain a little bit as we cleared the open ledges. We met some thru hikers at one of the shelters. There was one shelter before West Baldpate. We just skipped by that one. We got to the next shelter, and there was a couple of thru hikers hanging out. I had some extra food, so I was able to give them some candy bars and stuff, which was nice. Started pouring rain out right as we got to the shelter. So we're like, this is perfect. And the forecast was kind of sketchy, but basically, like, we just waited at the shelter for like 10 minutes, and then it stopped raining, and then we got going again, and then it started clearing up. So it was a perfect day. And then one more climb up, and then a slow descent down, and then you get towards the end of the hike, and I think it's Dunn's Falls. Don't quote me on this, but I think it's Dunn's Falls. So there's like this cool waterfall, water hole swimming area that you can go hang out at right by the road, and then bang, we were out. So we started at like, I don't know, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning, and then we were done by like 3:30. It's a little tricky because you got to drive back around Grafton Notch, so it's like a half-hour drive to loop back around, but perfect hike, 10 miles, not too hard, awesome views. We got to see some thru hikers, and good times, good conversation, and highly recommended. So the Baldpate Traverse is what it's called. And it's just.
So where are you starting again?
You're starting at Grafton Notch in Maine on Route 26.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you're heading, you said east or west?
Heading east, northeast, and then you finish on, it's called East Bee Hill Road. And it's right by like Newry and Bethel, Maine, and by Sunday River is the ski area.
Okay.
So
okay, I was looking on the maps and stuff like that. I'm a map geek, so I'm just looking all over the maps and stuff like that.
Right,
cool.
Grafton Notch. So it is a nice area, and I think it's like my sense of the Appalachian Trail in that section is that, like, obviously you're going through the Whites, and then you go through Mahoosic Traverse and the Mahoosic Notch, which is a rugged area, a lot of up and downs, and then the Baldpates are a little more forgiving, I'd say. They're not easy by any stretch, but they're a little bit more forgiving. So I feel like as you gradually get through Grafton Notch, you get a little bit of a relaxation from the really, really tough stuff, which is nice.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Open summits are always nice.
Oh yeah, the views are great. And then otherwise than that, I took like Saturday and Sunday, we spent a lot of time drinking up at the camp. And then on Monday, I got up by myself and did the Baldface Mountains, which are in Evans Notch. So the Baldfaces, and that's one of the trails I adopted this year. So I did my second trail adoption maintenance section. So I was able to get the section between South Baldface Summit and North Baldface Summit completely brushed out. So I spent the whole day with like loppers, just cutting out the the trail to widen it out. And then I went down from North Baldface over to Bicknell Ridge Trail, and then I picked a couple of really bad sections that were completely grown in, and I cleared those out. But then I was like kind of auditing the other sections, so I got to go back and do like a 0.6 of a mile section, I think, and clear out the rest of that. And the cool thing was when I got down below, I ran out of water, so I was like, I got to hustle to get down below so I could get to the river. When I got to the river, I ran into Craig, who is the AMC trail adopter coordinator. So he works for the AMC. So he was sitting there. He was doing work in another section. So me and him were kind of hanging out talking. So he was happy to see me because he knew I was doing the trail work, and I was happy to see him to catch up. Had a couple of questions for him anyway. So it worked out perfect.
Nice. And, do you think beyond that, at that time when you were doing trail maintenance, it was like, I wouldn't say overwhelming. When was the last time someone has been up there? You just newly adopted this, correct?
Yeah. So I don't know the history on when somebody else had been there. So what my understanding is that the AMC has grown their trail adopter program significantly to the point where they've got 100% coverage. But I think that's new this year. I think some of the political stuff that was going on with like the threats of like, oh, they're going to defund the Forest Service and all this other stuff. I think that motivated a lot of people to be like, well, I can do something about it. And I've always sort of had it on my radar. So I was like, yeah, this is the year. I have more time because my kids are away. And I can't tell. I can tell you this: when I was brushing sections, I could see that there had been people brushing in the past, like on some of the pine trees and stuff that I was, or the evergreens that I was dealing with, but it looked like a long time ago. So most of the sections that I dealt with, I probably cleared about 25 sections, anywhere from like 100 to 200 feet. And so over 2 sessions. So I probably have another probably 20 sections to do, but it's super hot. And like I didn't bring enough water. I had 3 liters and I ran out, and I was like, damn, I would stay longer if I had water, but I just ran out, and it was really hot that day. But mostly, and it's above tree line, but there's no drainage issues. There's no cairns to create because they're all basically stacked up. And then there's really no blowdowns to deal with. So it's all brushing. And so I could just all I had to do was bring loppers and then spend my time clearing it out. And it's sort of like, I don't know, it's just, you don't have to think much. It's just basically like brainless stuff, but it's something about it is just satisfying, especially as you make your way along. You take a picture of it in the beginning and it's all grown in. And then once you finish, and you take another picture and you're like, oh, wow, I can see them side by side. Like, what a difference this makes. Like, makes it for a less annoying hike. So people don't notice it probably when they're hiking. They just assume it's like that. But like when you do a trail that's completely grown in, it's annoying because everything's hitting you. So, yeah. So,
we'll talk about my Pemi hike, but going, I remember between Twin and South Twin and North Twin, it's pretty tight. It's like you kind of have to hold your arms in to go in between those 2 areas, and Zealand as well. I felt like it was just like I had to kind of hold my arms in. So like, having that feeling of like you can hold your arms down or you can hold your hiking poles up and stuff is kind of rewarding and stuff like that. And then you kind of, in your mind, you're just like, man, this trail maintainer is really good. So when I go up there, I'll have to remind myself that Mike took care of this area.
Right, yeah, definitely recommend it too. But the Baldfaces is like an absolutely gorgeous area. It's very similar to Franconia Notch, but people sleep on it because it's not like in the core area. It's in Evans Notch, which is not as well visited. But I'm getting the word out, so it's certainly a great area. But that's the thing too, is the tricky part about this one is it is a 4-mile hike just to get to the section of trail that I have to work on. So that's one of the tough things is like, okay, I adopted this trail, but I didn't think, it's a 2-hour investment just to hike to where I need to be. And then I'm going to work for 5 hours or 6 hours. Then I got to hike down. Hiking down's a little quicker. I can zip down in like an hour or so, but it's just, it's a long day.
What's your mileage to where you have to start maintaining?
I think I got to go up. I usually will go up the ledges, and it takes me a little under 2 hours to get to South Baldface. But I want to say it's probably 3.5 to 4 miles to get up there.
Wow. Impressive, Mike. Impressive as heck.
It's about 3,000 feet of a climb, yeah.
Yeah, I thought my 2.5 miles was pretty difficult. I got to mine, it's 2.5 miles with 2,000 feet of gain. So
yeah, not bad. So, but it is satisfying when you're done. And I do think that as I do it, if you maintain it, then it seems like it'll be pretty easy to keep it under control. I'm going to need 3 trips this year, but I feel like I can probably do it in 2 next year if I get it all done.
Yeah, well, dude, even though I don't hike up in New Hampshire as much, but thank you for your volunteer opportunities, because it's just phenomenal. Just anybody who volunteers each and every way is just a huge help to anybody and everybody, especially in the hiking community.
It's time for Slasher's Guest of the Week. Very cool. Very cool.
But enough about me, Stosh. Let's talk about you a little bit. So for the listeners, so Stosh has been on the show a couple times, and then we've been on your show before. We did a dual show together, and we've always stayed in touch. And you've got a search and rescue background, so you and Stomp have been in touch quite a bit, and we just got to know each other over the years. So, but why don't you just refresh the listeners a little bit, give a little bit of background on yourself, and a little bit of a refresh on the Catskills. In particular, I want to know if somebody from New Hampshire was going to go out there, where would you advise they start?
Oh, all right. Yeah, that's too many questions at once, Mike. I thought you were into this 200 episodes. Come on.
Sorry.
So I highly doubtful you got excited. But my name is Stosh. I do a podcast for Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountain Podcast. It's a complete Catskill Mountains area podcast. I don't cover just hiking. I cover history. I cover anything and everything related to the Catskills. It's a phenomenal place. It's the first area to have just birth and stuff like that of American history, and it's just phenomenal each and every day to find something different. So I'm always having different segments, but Mike and Stomp inspired me to do this podcast because they were friends of mine before that. Mike and I knew each other through social media, and he started this podcast. I always followed Mike because of his search and rescue information that he used to post, and it was just phenomenal stuff. So Mike Stomp started this podcast. I started my podcast a year later, and from there on, Mike and Stomp has bloomed into this amazing podcast. I'm kind of Mike and Stomp are the body, and I'm kind of like the toe.
No, come on.
So my podcast, even though I'm close, to the biggest metropolitan area in frickin' United States, not a lot of people go to the Catskills. They always go up to the Whites. They always go to the Adirondacks. But, I'm kind of trying to get that more information about the Catskills, more volunteer stuff, more history and stuff like that. And so, I've been hiking the Catskills for around 10 years now. I've been hiking overall around 12 years. And I'm on a search and rescue team. I was once on a search and rescue team in the Catskills. I've been a volunteer in the Catskills for as long as I've been hiking, for 10 years. And I just love chatting about the Catskills. And, if you want to start, get some mushrooms and go up on Giant Ledge and start up there, right? It's a lot of the Catskills are, I would say, somewhat similar to the Whites, except the Whites are, I would say, 2 times the size of the Catskills. So the Catskills have short elevation gains instantly. It just happens. Adirondacks, you have, it sucks. You got to hike 4 miles to start. Yeah, you got to start 4 miles into hike and then start your elevation gain. That sucks. I want my elevation gain to start and then end, and then that's it. And the Catskills, I would say, is a little segment of the Whites, of where we have awesome elevation gains within the first 2 miles, and then you're at your viewpoint, you're at your summit, and then you're there. We don't have open summits. That's what sucks, is we don't have open summits. We have viewpoints. We have awesome walks along the summits. We have beautiful areas of history and stuff like that. But that's what we're lacking. Is I'm doing a lot of research with my podcast and my time in the Catskills, that we have viewpoints that are diminishing, and we need those viewpoints because, once again, people are going to the Whites, people are going to the Adirondacks because they want those viewpoints. They see that stuff on Instagram, Facebook, and they want to escape to see that stuff. But that's where I am. I'm having a fantastic time. I want to thank Mike and Stomp for inspiring me to do this, because, I get invited to do this stuff, and I just have a fantastic time talking about hiking, volunteering, history, and stuff like that.
Yeah, and you definitely, I'm assuming that given the fact that you built these relationships up with the forest rangers and the folks that are out there doing a lot of these rescues, that, you've built up a lot of credibility in the region, which is a great thing.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's just reaching out and hearing people, being like, yeah, I'm definitely interested. I've heard a couple of your episodes and stuff like that. It just makes me feel that I'm making an impact. I could only imagine what you guys are doing. And it feels, with the small area that we have here in the Catskills, it just feels phenomenal to be like, hearing somebody like your reviews, just saying somebody like, hey, you inspired me to go on my pursuit of the patch or something like that. It feels so good.
Right. So any recent guests or any recent episodes that you feel particularly would be interesting to the listeners?
God, do you even remember that stuff on your podcast?
No, I don't. I would have to go look at it.
So we've had definitely a lot of rangers on the show, which I have a great relationship with the DEC, with the public information officer of the DEC. And we just published one, I would say like 12 hours ago about, signing up to be a forest ranger in the Catskills. What would it take, the qualifications. We had one a while back of, the different rescues that they've had, and they've had, some crazy ones here, forest fires. Who would have thought that we have freaking forest fires in New York State? It's been an insane drought up in the Northeast, climate change, stuff like that. And now we have 5,000 acre forest fires that were just like, people are like, out west are like 5,000 acres. Those are rookie numbers. Well, no, it's actually not here in the Catskills. It's actually pretty crazy because, there's houses within hundreds of acres between each other. So now we have threatening things of stuff like that. But they come on and they chat about that. One of the most, I don't remember what episode it was, but we talk about a bald eagle restoration project. Yep. Now, if you remember, Mike, I'm 42 years old. How old are you, if you want to admit
53. So
53.
Yeah, I remember when they were like an endangered species, and it was like such a big deal that you had to protect them.
Yeah, it's just like being back in a kid, we had a bald eagle's nest here, and it was like a tourist attraction. And I'm just like, what is so crazy about this? And, we had 2 bald eagles in the state of New York at I think they said like the time of 1982. And this guy, his name was Pete Nye, he would climb up into these nests and take out the eggs, the eggs of the actual bald eagles, and put fake eggs up there. And then take their eggs and kind of incubate them, let them hatch and stuff, and then put them back up there right when they were before the hatch, and they would hatch and they would have, eaglets, because we had these problems with insecticides, DET, stuff like that, DDT. That would threaten these bald eagles, and they were our national bird. Like how could you do this? Lead, stuff like that. And just hearing his story of him climbing up in the trees, him being 50 feet away from a bald eagle chirping at him because he was touching their nest or something like that. But they didn't threaten them. They would just stare at him, and he would just be like, we had a relationship together. And I'm just like flabbergasted that, back in the 80s, we had 2 bald eagles like in New York State. And I don't know how many, like more up in Maine, but like 10 or 20 bald eagles.
Yeah, here. I remember like it was such a huge thing. It was always like any educational activity you did when you were a kid around like going to the zoo or any lessons around wildlife. There was always like the the lessons about like the bald eagles are endangered and we have to protect them. And it's crazy. Now, I'll sit on my hammock up in my father-in-law's camp in Maine, and literally I will see this summer. I saw 3 eagles just fly right above my head. Like I don't know what they were, what the relationship was between their family or whatever, but like right over me, bald eagles. And it is amazing to think of like it was down to such a small number of birds at a certain point.
Yeah, and it's just you see them now, and you're just like, wow, you're still blown away by their size, by their wingspan, by anything, and it's just just to think that back when we were kids that they were once extinct here, and that this guy, I forgot what episode it was. It's back, I think it's 62. It's just phenomenal, and we've had different guests on here about a big time in Catskills history. Have you ever heard of the Borscht Belt?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so the Jewish used to come up here kind of to get away from the city, to get fresh air and stuff like that. All of a sudden in the Catskills, we had this massive time called the Borscht Belt, where massive hotels were being built everywhere. Hotels, Kirsinger's, I forgot the different names of this, Neville, stuff like that, where these people would just come up and just vacation for the whole summer. And this happened for a good 15 to 20 years. And then all of a sudden, bam, they started disappearing. People stopped going to them. And all of a sudden, they're abandoned. And now these huge places in the Catskills are still somewhat here. They're starting to be demolished and stuff. But I find that phenomenal time in the Catskills and, American history, because everybody from New York City was coming up to the Catskills to get fresh air. They had tuberculosis at the time, and their therapy was to come up to fresh air to get out of the city air. And I'm just amazed by, if you look at Borscht Belt, you'll see hundreds of thousands of people at these different resorts, just chilling, just having a good time. If
the listeners are familiar, for the listeners, like you would think of like basically what you're describing is what is the setting of Dirty Dancing, the movie, even though that was filmed in like not in the Catskills necessarily, but like it was that same vibe essentially. Was
yes, it was 100% that.
Yeah. And it's interesting you say that. So up in where we are in New Hampshire, there's Bethlehem, New Hampshire, same dynamic is that there was an enclave of, New York City Jewish population that would come up to Bethlehem. Sort of the same thing as get out of the city. And there was probably more to it back then because the city's probably had a lot more like manufacturing and the air was probably not as clean as it is today. But they were basically looking to just get out of the city and be able to breathe fresh air. So yeah, the Borscht Belt is an interesting. The thing I don't know about is like what did it all of a sudden just stopped, and I don't know. Would they all just go to the Jersey Shore in Long Island? Is that basically what happened?
No, they all went up to the Whites. That's it. They were just like, let's go up to the Whites. No, to be honest, the craziest thing is two different instances happened. Air conditioning and airplanes started to fly out of state, out of the country and stuff, and they went to Europe. So those were the 2 big instances that happened that took away people coming up to the Catskills, Adirondacks and stuff like that. Is just the kids wanted to stay home more, or they wanted to fly to Europe to see different areas other than the Catskills.
Yeah, it's kind of sad because it was sort of like for kids, and I did a little bit of this, like with my family, I would go up to different vacation spots. But like when you go to those vacation spots and there's a bunch of families that are all contained, and obviously we didn't have social media or internet, any of that stuff. So essentially your entertainment was based on your proximity, the people that were in proximity of you. So in those environments there, it was sort of like an extended high school. Like you would have your group of high school friends or middle school friends. Then you go to this Borscht Belt or wherever it is, and you have a whole new group of friends, and you could sort of reinvent yourself and be a whole new person if you wanted to, and get a reset button there. But those days are over now. Everyone's sitting in their air conditioning, or they're going over to travel to Europe or the Caribbean or the Mediterranean.
Yeah, and then you and people like you and me are hiking in 93-degree weather, 100% humidity, and taking the sweat.
Exactly. But speaking of humidity, so you did do another adventure on in the White Mountains. So what was your what motivated you to want to stay around the Pemi region and go back there? Because you had been there 2 years ago. So what was your thought about it?
So my first experience in the Pemi was absolutely miserable. We had 2 straight days of pouring rain. Like, I'm not talking about like raindrops. This is constant rain of where, we were so miserable we didn't talk. We just hiked. Our first hike was the Guyot shelter, and then we went to Lafayette, the Greenleaf, and we stayed there, but that was 2 straight days. We only got a break when we got to the second false summit of Lafayette, where it started to break clouds, and then we had it. But I was a little kind of heartbroken because I didn't get those areas of satisfaction over there, and we didn't cut those peaks. And I'm not saying I'm a patch guy or a peak finder kind of guy, but you know what, I kind of like that and stuff, and the Whites was a great experience. And then the next year I came back to do the Prezi, and I had the most phenomenal time of my life. We had most beautiful sunsets, sunrises, the huts. I can't say the huts are freaking awesome.
Oh, yeah,
everybody talks. Yeah, everybody talks like there's people there, blah, blah, blah. It's so much fun. You meet so many different diverse people from Sweden to, down to North Carolina to California. You chat, you have a good time, you have a place to stay, you're going to get food. You might be warm at night. Those things, I like backpacking, but I like knowing that, especially during these popular times, I'm going to have a place to stay, that I'm not going to have to guess or basically do something illegal to find a spot to camp at night. So we did the Prezi, beautiful 3 days. And then I was just like, my friend said he was going to do the Pemi. And this was just not the loop of 34 miles. This was everything. Yep. All the North Twin, South Twin, Zealand, all that stuff. I'm like, well, I didn't bag those peaks. I will not join you going up to Lafayette and such, but I'll join you at Galehead.
Right.
And so I went up the Gale River Trail to Galehead. We bagged all those peaks, Twin, South Twin, Zealand, Guyot, and I didn't go to Westbond. That's the only one I didn't go to because I just didn't have it in me. But it was a phenomenal time. 2 days at Galehead Hut. Beautiful sunset, beautiful sunrises, stuff like that. It was just, I can't get enough of that. That hike up from the Gale River Trail is just phenomenal, nice and steady, right. And then you get that nice elevation gain.
Yeah, it is a nice steady hike, and then I do like that front porch on Galehead. Like, even if it's raining out, you just can chill right there and relax. And it's a good size hut, I think. Not the hugest, but not the biggest, but good size hut. So basically you were kind of base camping and you hung out with your friend and were able to get everything. How did you find, I'm assuming the hardest climb for you would have been from Galehead up to South Twin. That's the butt kicker, right?
Oh yeah. I gotta admit, that was brutal. Right. What's 0.8 miles and 1,100 feet again?
Yes, yeah, it's pretty. That's one of the steeper sections of the Whites, I would guess. But I will say, South Twin to me is people talk about Carrigain as being in the center of the Whites. I feel like South Twin, for whatever reason, to me feels like the middle of the Whites. It's just when you do the 360 and you can just see mountains everywhere. So I really like it up there. In fact, I had dinner up there, and that I find that's a nice place to eat and relax and stop for a while.
Yeah, we had, the cool thing is we hit exact time of the bubble of the Appalachian trails.
Fun.
We had so many, and it it was heartbreaking because, they come there, they want to do the work for stay. But did you know the rules of that? It's kind of weird.
I think they only take 2 people, I think, and they don't.
You have to arrive after 4 o'clock.
Yep. Yeah.
That's so odd.
Yeah.
I felt so bad. There was 4 or 5 people arriving before 4 o'clock, and they're just like, what do I do? And they're like, well, if anybody arrives after 4, you're kind of screwed. You got to find your own place. And I felt so bad for them.
Yeah, and there's not too many options. Like, I'm sure there's some stealth camping, but if you keep going up South Twin, essentially, like, your next option is to go to Guyot. But if you're tenting, the problem is if you're tenting even to go to Guyot, like, the chance that you got to go down a couple hundred feet, 150 feet down to the Guyot campsite, and then if you end up like finding it that it's full, then you got to hike back up and find another stealth spot. So it's a pain. So that's why I like hammocking.
And that's why I like the huts.
Oh yeah, you get the reservation, so it's perfect. So I mean, they do have that option if they want to reserve a spot, but the through hikers sometimes they're in a rough spot there.
Yeah, but I found we summited South Twin, and it was like, I wouldn't say foggy, but there was clouds. We went over to North Twin, came back, and it finally started breaking up. We met some through hikers, and then we went over to Guyot, and then we got up to Zealand, and right when we were summited Zealand, we touched the sign, and it starts raining. I'm like, we're good, we're okay. Yep. This is just a little short segment. Nope, it starts pouring rain. And I look at my friend and I'm just like, are you freaking kidding me? Yeah. Again.
And you know what's crazy is like this summer has been insane weather-wise. Like there's been barely any rain, but you get hit with a couple of, a day that wasn't perfect.
Yeah, and it was still phenomenal. It seemed like it was just along that ridge that it was kind of like bouncing off. Once we hit Guyot, there was nothing but clear skies facing east. But everything west was covered in clouds. Nice. So I had a fantastic time. My friend, we went back to Galehead, and he finished a Pemi. He went and he's 26 years old. So I was just like, you go do your thing. I don't really like you, freaking kick ass. But went back down to Gale River Trailhead and left the day and arrived home. It's just, God, I love it. It's just so much similar to the Catskills. I would just say it's 2 times the size of the Catskills, and you guys have those open summits. Right. That is just phenomenal. Right.
So, all right. Well, next time we got to get you, I guess, where could you go next time? I think the Kilkenny Ridge would be a good one for you. I mean, if you like the huts, then basically probably Randolph Mountain, stay up on Mount Adams. That would be another one that I think you would enjoy. So that's what I would recommend is like the Northern Presidentials and just do the Randolph Mountain huts instead of the AMC ones.
I'm willing to do anything up there. I'll go up there. I think my wife and I are planning on doing like, a 5-day thing up there and for me bagging peaks and she just chills and then we'll go on a little like a couple hikes. I got a little small hikes like Rattlesnake Mountain and stuff like that to do.
Well, listen to this podcast. You'll get some ideas.
Oh, I mean, how many episodes do you got? Like, you guys are like 6 episodes in, right?
Oh, and so you want us, yeah. We're like, I think we got about 7 or 8 now. So we have a bunch recorded. We just have to release them. So,
yeah.
But this was good, Stosh. I think we're running up on time here. I was going to do a search and rescue, but I think we covered basically everything at this point. So I'm going to keep it under 2 hours. But is there anything else you wanted to cover before we say goodnight to the listeners?
No, I just, chime in, like check out the Catskill Mountains and the Catskill Mountain podcast that I run. It's fun stuff. I want to once again give a big thank you to you and Stomp for, inspiring me to do this, to helping me out and stuff. I've had a great time. The people are great. And it's just been one hell of a time just doing this, having fun hiking and reaching out to people. It's just, like I said, but one hell of a time. And I thank you guys for doing what you do because, not only are you just like pouring out information, but you're inspiring people to do the right thing, to do the good thing, to help out each other and to kind of like you bond as one. Right. So excellent. So I appreciate it again. Thanks for stepping in and being the co-host. And then we will be back next week. So thank you. Yeah.
Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed the show, you can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podbean, YouTube, or wherever you listen to podcasts. If If you want to learn more about the topics covered in today's show, please check out the show notes and safety information at SLASRPodcast.com. That's SLASRPodcast.com. You can also follow the show on Facebook and Instagram. We hope you'll join us next week for another great show. Until then, on behalf of Mike and Stomp, get out there and crush some mega peaks.
Now covered in scratches, blisters, and bug bites, Chris Staff wanted to complete his most challenging day hike ever.
Fish and Game officers say the hiker from Florida activated an emergency beacon yesterday morning. He was hiking along the Appalachian Trail when the weather started to get worse. Officials say the snow was piled up to 3 feet in some spots, and there was a wind chill of -1 degree.
And there's 3 words that describe this race. Do we all know what they are? Only one hell!
Lieutenant James Nealon, New Hampshire Fish and Game. Lieutenant, thanks for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
What are some of the most common mistakes you see people make when they're heading out on the trails to hike here in New Hampshire?
It seems to me the most common is being unprepared, and I think if they just simply visited hikesafe.com and got a list of the 10 essential items and had those in their packs, they probably would have no need to ever call us at all.